Bose. In an apartment, Steven Spielberg presents Batteries Not Included.
Submitted for your approval. A journey through time and space. A signpost up ahead. You've just crossed over into the inside-out zone. First, we'll take a trip back to the 50s with a visit to the sci-fi dine-in theater. Then the big guy gets cut down to size as he explores the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure. And finally, the aliens have landed.
Prepare yourselves for an unforgettable encounter.
So fasten your seatbelts. You're in for the ride of your life. Only on the Disney Channel. Tuesday, 8:30, 7:30 Central.
Destroy an entire city in return from Witch Mountain. Then set out for the Canadian frontier to meet the people who make their home in Avonlea. After that, Gregory Peck stars in the tense courtroom classic, To Kill a Mockingbird, right here on the Disney Channel. And on the weekends,
It's raining quills.
and feathers and fur balls with amazing animals and Audubon's Animal Adventures.
Come on, Rhino. Make my day.
Also on the weekends, don't miss the all-new Ocean Dude on Ocean Girl. And it's the last new season for the Avonlea folks.
Go with a blaze of glory, there.
Don't miss the all-new series and all-new episodes, now on the Disney Channel.
So Disney Channel was a lot different when I was a kid. For starters, if you mention Disney to people nowadays, they're likely to refer to it as children's entertainment, and yeah, that's pretty accurate. But Disney, and especially Disney Channel, being kids' entertainment, is a much more recent thing. Disney was the family company for most of its history. Sometimes that meant content that was more focused on young children, and sometimes that meant it was focused on teens and adults. This was back when PG meant something, and a lot of Disney content used that PG rating. While Disney Channel was always a little safer content-wise than theatrical Disney, it was never intended to be a channel only for children. Disney Channel launched on April 18th, 1983, as a premium channel in the vein of HBO or Showtime, only family-oriented. They ran a 16-hour block of programming per day rather than the standard 24 hours of other premium channels. Since it was a paid channel, they needed to ensure parents would be pleased with it as much as children were. This required them to have a heavy focus on playing Disney's theatrical films on the channel, including some films made by their subsidiaries, like Buena Vista. For those who don't know, Buena Vista is the Disney subsidiary that made films like Clash of the Titans, which were not deemed to be family-appropriate films. Additionally, subscribers were provided monthly magazines with program listings, sneak peeks behind upcoming Disney productions, and promotional content. This was called the Disney Channel Magazine, and it lasted 15 years, ending its run in 1997 when the reins were taken on by Behind the Ears. The reason all of this is so important is that it cannot be overstated just how much Disney did not want its TV channel to be children's only entertainment. See, at the time of Disney Channel's launch, Disney was at an all-time low. Their theme parks weren't pulling the numbers they used to, their movies were being largely shrugged off by audiences and critics. It was time for a rebrand, especially considering that with the loss of Walt Disney, a lot of people consider Disney a passé company, the last vestiges of a company trying desperately to keep its head above water. They needed to rebrand in order to not go out of business. This is what the Disney Channel would be. And it was a simple enough plan. Create a channel that was indispensable for families, carry content that appeals to both kids and adults, and use it as a marketing tool for your upcoming projects. Corporate synergy at its finest. By 1986, Disney Channel was running a 24-hour-a-day broadcasting block. By 1997, they were undergoing yet another rebranding, this time dropping the from Disney Channel, becoming just Disney Channel and starting to hew towards a slightly younger audience. See, this was largely because during the day, their audience was starting to switch over to Nickelodeon for its by kids, for kids feel. At night, however, Disney still predominantly ran family content, often family movies under the banner The Magical World of Disney. It wasn't until the mid-2000s that it really completed its shift to squarely kids-only content. And really, I think it's only fair to assess that a huge part of the reason for that is that by that time, a lot of older kids were finding their entertainment online. So in order to have a loyal and committed audience, they had to hew a little younger. Prior to that point, however, Disney Channel did play a lot of content that was not really intended for children. For instance, Kenneth Branagh's Henry V, as well as Cleopatra and 2001 A Space Odyssey were all run, along with both of the Ghostbusters films. Though with all the edits they would have had to make, I think it's safe to say that those versions of Ghostbusters would have been, well,
Ridiculous.
Shows like Boy Meets World, which included occasional profanities, sex humor, and frank and honest conversations about drugs, alcohol, sex, abuse, familial divides, class divides, and poverty, and sundry, were also played on the channel at this time. Now, some of these things might seem boring for children, and some might seem like strange decisions to play on a family channel, but there's a bigger standout. A film that is unlike anything that has ever been played on Disney Channel prior or since. A film that is so head-scratchingly confusing to have played on Disney Channel that it is etched into my memory that they played that on Disney Channel, even though I was super young, and I've been telling everyone for 20 years that it played on Disney Channel, and everyone has called me crazy. I've endured crazy looks, I've endured being judged, but I was right. This is my great white whale. This is my Moby Dick.
All you have to do
Beetlejuice.
is say his name
Beetlejuice.
3 times.
Beetlejuice!
It's showtime. Catch the laughter from the hereafter with Beetlejuice. Tomorrow at 8/7 Central on Disney Channel.
Now, that ad is very clearly from one of the 2002 rebroadcasts of Beetlejuice. You can tell by the Disney Channel logo that is featured within it. But finding that ad actually ended up setting me down a really strange path. See, there was a 0% chance that my dad was ever going to let me watch Beetlejuice as a child. So, because of Disney Channel playing Beetlejuice, I spent years being excited about the opportunity to watch this movie when I got older. And when I finally did, when I was in high school, I loved it. But I was a little confused, because it was not what I was expecting. It was not the feel of typical Disney Channel fare. It was not the family-friendly, spooky movie that Disney Channel was used to playing. So while I loved Beetlejuice in its own right, and I love Beetlejuice, there's a part of me that has always wondered what it would have been like to have truly been introduced to Beetlejuice through the broadcast on Disney Channel that I wasn't allowed to watch. Now, the thing that's particularly strange about Disney Channel airing Beetlejuice is that it's not even a film that Disney owns. I mean, oftentimes when they would play films that were more intended for an older audience, the reason was that they were owned by a Disney subsidiary, so they would air it heavily censored as like sort of self-promotion during family movie nights. But Disney didn't own Beetlejuice, it's owned by Warner Brothers. They had to license a movie from one of their biggest competitors, only to censor the heck out of it and then air it on Disney Channel, thus promoting their competitors. I think it's important to point out that in 1993, just 6 years before Beetlejuice made its Disney Channel debut, the theatrical wing of Disney decided that they had to release Henry Selick's Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas under a subsidiary company that was for adults, Touchstone Pictures, because they deemed The Nightmare Before Christmas too dark and scary for children. The Nightmare Before Christmas did not get official Disney branding on it until 2006, 7 years after they decided that it was totally appropriate to play Beetlejuice, a film actually intended for adults, on the Disney Channel. Look, this should go without saying, but art should generally be consumed the way that it was originally intended. And as much as I love Beetlejuice, and I love Beetlejuice, I also believe that the audience owns art as well. And so what I've always wondered is what it would have been like. There's this gnawing feeling, right? What if I could go back in time and just watch that premiere of Disney Channel without telling my dad and see if it would have connected with me? And I can't go back in time. There's no time machine. Peabody and Sherman aren't going to pop out and take me to the past. But what I can do is recreate the past. Now, the broadcast that I remember the ad for would have been one of the 2002 rebroadcasts of Beetlejuice. There's no question about it. I certainly remember watching the ad that I showed you earlier. The thing is, though, that I also remember a different ad. And this ad was for Beetlejuice airing with Flubber during Disney Channel's month-long Halloween celebration, which did happen in 1999. Here's what I've determined. I've determined that I was the right age, that at about 3 years old, I would have somehow had it in my head that was there. Some piece of that, a single image of that is ingrained in my head. And everything else that I remember about Disney Channel airing Beetlejuice is probably from a 2002 rebroadcast. But here's the real trick of it. I cannot find any information online about the 2002 rebroadcast other than the ad that I showed you. Everything else appears to be logging the changes that were made in 1999. Now, these were probably the same changes, but I kind of have more curiosity, more interest in recreating the broadcast, or one of the broadcasts from October of 1999, so that I can use the 90s Disney Channel aesthetic and the 90s Disney Channel Halloween stuff. And there's more information about that anyway, including some, bumpers for things that would have aired around the same time, including one of my favorite Disney Channel original movies of all time, Don't Look Under the Bed. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to, as faithfully as I can, recreate the October 11th, 1999 Disney Channel broadcast of Beetlejuice. Now, there are some caveats here. The first caveat is that I have searched through the internet for several hours across multiple days. I cannot find a single copy of any of the ads or any of the bumpers for the 90s broadcast of Beetlejuice. I found proof that it existed, cannot find bumpers. So I'm going to have to recreate those as best I can from the ground up. The second piece of that is, there's no way for me to track the exact ads that would have aired during this specific broadcasting block. What I can do, and have done, is find ads that were aired on Disney Channel during Wonderful World of Disney in October of 1999. So I will be using those, the ones that I remember fondly and have nostalgia for, as filler ads for the broadcast recreation. Basically, this is not intended to be for historical recreation purposes. This is not meant to be the way that you remember necessarily Beetlejuice having aired in 1999. Instead, this is meant to be a journey into nostalgia, a welcomed, peaceful break from the craziness of adulthood. So if you will, come with me, and I'll take you on a journey into the twisted mind of Tim Burton. Right here on Disney Channel. Right, okay, so after conducting preliminary research, it became clear to me that I'd have to recreate the Disney Channel bumpers for this broadcast, which, not ideal, but I'd make it work. Here's the problem, though. The internet has many incomplete lists of people who did the announcer voice for Disney Channel over the years, and most don't even have the years that they did it listed. I decided to reach out to Jared Hewitt to ask if he would have been the Disney Channel voice in 1999. He let me know that he took over in 2000, and recommended I reach out to Bob Bergen, who you might know as the voice of, half the Looney Tunes. I did reach out to Bergen, who let me know that he was the voice of Disney Channel in 1999, so it probably was him, but he was unable to record audio for me due to not being a union producer. Which, fair, so I reached back out to Jared Hewitt to thank him and see if he could record or if he had any ideas. He let me know that he also couldn't record lines for union reasons, but putting me towards voice 123. So I put out a project request with an open-ended payment amount because I wasn't sure how much people normally charge. Turns out, more than I have to spend on my first YouTube video on the channel. This left me in a weird spot. I could try to find a friend who could recreate the voice, but I couldn't really think of anyone. Then my brother, say hi Michael, recommended that since I do the voice passably for fun, I should just record myself and use some sound editing to adjust it to how I want it, which I decided was probably the best idea and the cheapest option, which led to this.
Beetlejuice on Disney Channel. And now, more Beetlejuice on Disney Channel. And now, back to Beetlejuice on Disney Channel. And now, back to Beetlejuice on Disney Channel. We'll be right back with more Beetlejuice. Getting too much. Okay. We'll be right back with more Beetlejuice.
After I got the audio recorded and some distortion added to it to get the proper effect I wanted, it was time to work out the video component. I was luckily able to find Disney Channel bumpers from the Wicked Weekend broadcast of Don't Look Under the Bed in 1999, which would have been roughly 3 weeks after the movie originally aired. 2 days after it originally aired, it was rebroadcast alongside Beetlejuice, so this would have to work. So I brought it into my editing software, brought in the Beetlejuice file, found a sequence that made sense, and edited the clip to be circular so I could match the circle of the footage from this old bumper. That, however, cut off part of the logo, so I found a digital asset of the old purple Disney Channel logo from the late 90s, which I prefer anyway, and I used it as an overlay, which worked great. Then, I added a layer of film grain to tie it all together so it didn't look too digitally altered. Finally, I found bouncy children's music to play underneath the audio while I was talking. Rinse and repeat a few times, and here are the bumpers.
We'll be right back with more Beetlejuice on Disney Channel. And now, more Beetlejuice on Disney Channel. Whatever you do, don't say his name 3 times. More Beetlejuice after the break. And now, back to Beetlejuice. Don't take off! More Beetlejuice coming up! Thanks for watching Disney Channel. More Beetlejuice right now!
After this, it was time for me to start the main Beetlejuice edit. I found a list online of the edits made by Disney for the broadcast. It was listed in a couple places with the exact same language and no real sourcing, but the edits made sense, so I made them. One of the big edits is that in the theatrical version of the film, Beetlejuice drops the F-bomb after knocking over a model tree. In the Disney version, the scene is the same, except they used a alternate take where he spits on the ground and then looks up at them. I can't find this alternate take, so I have to edit it as closely to it as possible. Here's the original.
You're working with a professional here! Nice model!
See, we can do this stuff on our own.
And here's mine.
You're working with a professional here!
See, we can do this stuff on our own.
It also states that during the scene where Beetlejuice is a snake attacking them, there were multiple edits made. That's all it says. I think it's safe to assume that the part where Beetlejuice looks up Catherine O'Hara's skirt was removed, and probably the dad dropping to what looks like his death. There are a few more edits, but I won't bore you with all of them. I also made a couple other minor edits that were not in the listing but clearly needed to be there, such as removing any particularly strong language. My decision making on this was based on other things that aired on the Disney Channel at that time. Basically, if there was a D word, H word, or A word on its own, then it could stay. Otherwise, it had to go. This is fairly consistent with some early DComs that had mild cursing, as well as reruns of TGIF shows they had at the time. I also cropped the video down to 131:1 and made sure no titles or credits were cut off in the process. After that, it was time to start realigning shots so that I didn't end up with weird shots where nothing was in focus. Finally, it was time to start clipping in my bumpers and some ads. I decided to create each commercial break in its own file and render it so that I could just drop in the ad break in the main project as one file. This just cuts down the possibility of one thing going wrong and tanking the entire project. I also added a 90s Disney Channel logo to the bottom corner. Now, back in the day, this probably would have had some sort of movement or animation to it, but there's really no way for me to believably recreate that, and on almost every other network, these are stagnant, so this will have to do. And finally,
It's showtime.
So when I started the Beetlejuice project, I wasn't really sure what to do with it. I mean, I have a lot of other YouTube channels from throughout the years that I haven't really stuck with, but this didn't really seem like it fit with that content, and I haven't posted on there in a long time anyway. And I know from experience that while having a new YouTube channel and trying to keep it going sounds really fun, it's hard to do. It's hard to stick with. Life often gets in the way. And really, I just wanted a big, distracting project to work on while grieving the loss of my grandmother. And this was suitable enough. But as I made the video, I fell in love with making this type of content. I found myself really taken aback by how much this brought me peace and enjoyment. I want to make more. I want to keep a YouTube channel going. But I want to make a YouTube channel where I make the kind of videos that I want to make. I talk about whatever niche topic I like, and I do it in a creative and different way. So that's what I'm going to try to do with this YouTube channel, and I hope you'll come along on the ride with me. What I really loved after I finished making the Beetlejuice re-edit, and when I watched it, I found myself really disappearing into this nostalgia and finding a lot of peace and joy while watching it. Because for the first time in a long time, I was watching something that actually gave me the experience that I remember having when I would stay up late, curled in the blankets in front of the TV, watching something slightly more edgy that was made for families, feeling like I was getting away with something I wasn't supposed to get away with. And I hope that this video did something similar for you. I hope that it brought you joy. I hope that it gave you a brief break from reality. I hope that it was a respite from the ills that you're dealing with. And if you dug this video, I hope you'll come back, because I have some really fun content coming at you really quickly. So next Monday, I have a video coming out about the 1935 film Werewolf of London, which is one of my favorite werewolf movies of all time. At the end of the month, I have a huge video coming that is breaking down the entire Halloween Town franchise, and I filmed a huge chunk of it in St. Helens, Oregon, where they filmed the original Halloween Town. They do a big festival there, where they decorate the town like Halloween Town from the first movie, and I filmed a bunch of this video at that festival in that town. It's gonna be a really fun, really nostalgic video. Yeah, I really hope you'll come along on this ride with me. So if you dug this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. It'll help me out a lot. And until next time, thanks for watching.